That's my sword! What do they want with my sword, man?
I've been a blacksmith armorer for over 30 years. I've created weapons for over 200 feature films. This is Man-at-Arms. Well, you guys like the Finn sword I made from Adventure Time so much, figured I'd make you Jake's sword. It's kind of difficult a lot of times when you guys request swords that are based from cartoons or anime. I can determine what the length of everything's going to be by going on the dimensions of the grip. It's going to be maybe 1.25 inch diameter maximum. Once I have that dimension, I can lay it out on graph paper and scale it up to figure out the actual dimensions. We trace that pattern onto a piece of 1/4 inch 1075 spring steel and cut that out on the bandsaw and extrude it to shape. The tang on this piece was also forged on the power hammer. After the tang was forged, we threaded it to a 3/8/16 thread. Then we cut a piece of Delrin for the grip. We did a spiral wrap over the outside of the Delrin grip with a piece of leather glued on with barge cement. I ground the blade using progressive steps, using a 36 grit to do the rough grind with a 10-inch hollow grind, and progressing down to 120 grit. We put it into the electric heat treating oven set at 1550 degrees and quenched it in the heat treating oil to harden it, and then tempered the blade back in the heat treating oven at a lower temperature just to make it a little bit more resilient. I also cut a piece of aluminum that's about 1.25 inches thick by 3 inches wide by about 5 inches. Then milled a 1/4 inch slot through that so the tang of the sword would fit through it. I stretched it out on either side under the power hammer to make it about 6-7 inches long. After we forged the hilt, we carved in an eye shape. What I had Alicia do was actually do a vitreous baked on enamel.
So these are the eyes for Jake's sword. Since I'm doing Jake's eyeball, I have two colors. I'm doing the red and the yellow. And the red actually burns out at a lower temperature. So if I were to put the red layer on first, it would end up flaking off and it turns really dark. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a base layer of yellow. So right now I've got the kiln at 1450, which will give it a nice glassy finish. This is the yellow, even though it's coming out looking really red. And once it cools to temperature, it's gonna be that really, really bright marigold. And then after that, we'll go ahead and do the red. These look really good. I'm stoked.
Karen Cope sculpted the pommel. In this case, what we did was we did a direct wax sculpture. The wax was used was a brown wax called microcrystalline wax, which will soften just by handling it. She sculpted a rough form of the skull type pommel for it.
I'm heating up the metal tool and then carving into the wax, not melting the wax and carving into it. So I want to have some tension in the wax as I work.
Then we sprued that up and put it into a flask and poured liquid investment over the top, allowed that to dry, and then burned out the wax in the burnout oven. An interesting process during the casting. The hole here has a vacuum behind it. We have a silicone pad between the flask. It pulls a vacuum through, and the cavity that we pour the molten, in this case aluminum, would suck through it, but there was a crack in the investment, so it sucked all the way through into the hole, into the vacuum chamber, and started making this horrible green smoke, which hopefully the vacuum pump still works.
Oh my God.
We had to send the aluminum hilt off to the anodizer to get it colored purple.
We want to make sure it's as shiny as possible because that anodizing layer will pick up any scratches, any discoloration. If it's cloudy, then the color will be cloudy. We took it to the slack belt here and hit it with the 120 belt, and then we switched to the 320, and now we're starting to get more of that mirror polish we want to get.
So when that came back from the anodizer, we inset the enameled copper eyes into the middle of that hilt. The other thing we needed to use was an epoxy type enamel. That was a bake-on enamel that we used for the pommel. And then the eyeballs for the pommel were done with 20-minute epoxy mixed with soot, which is carbon black from the oxyacetylene torches. Normally I adjust the acetylene up about here, but I want it really sooty because I want the carbon black. I'm going to fill in the eyes on the pommel and the eyelashes on the hilt. So we'll let that dry for about 20 minutes and then clean it up, and we'll do the opposite side and the other eye, and then this can be assembled. This is a dog sword for Jake. Geometric, algebraic, mathematical.
You're just saying all of them.
All of them.
All of the things.
It would be so flippin' sweet if you gave that subscribe button a trust pound. Special thanks to Ian and Anthony from Smosh. If you've never heard of them, first, watch more YouTube, then click here to check them out.